Okay, and let's get right back to it. Hour number 2 tonight. Latest from the California drought. Yeah, it's still there, and it's warming up, and it's going to be even worse this summer. That's the word. California's drought is making its dying inland sea even more toxic now. The Salton Sea. Many of you know about the Salton Sea. So the ramifications of the created drought are extraordinary, and they're not going to slow down. They're going to continue to compound and become worse and worse. But that's the plan. That is the plan. My personal feeling is the drought was started as maybe an unnecessary or accidental or unfortunate or undesired byproduct of stopping radiation from coming in here from Fukushima and the rainstorms, the weather systems in the wintertime, so they blocked them, rather than have the storm fronts come in and dump radiation all over the place. If you remember back, the first year or so, UC Berkeley was doing routine evaluations of water, of plant life, all kinds of things, and coming back with an upward graph every time, meaning the bioaccumulative aspects and factors involved with Fukushima radiation were playing out in the research being done. So we have enormous problems, that's all I can say. Now, it looks like this summer is going to be the long, hot summer, the long, hot, flaming summer in California. There's a lot going on. Deborah Tavares is back tonight because she's got so much information, and we had the time, so I thought I'd give her a chance to bring that forward. And are you there, Deborah?
Yes, thank you very much for having me on, particularly on May Day, because for many, they're celebrating traditional springtime festivals.
Right.
I know that children are enjoying the May Day dance, and it's a lovely day also in which there's internationally honoring of workers. But May Day also has another meaning, and it's an emergency procedure. It's a word used internationally as a distress signal.
Help.
So This is May Day, and this is a distress notification. I'm going to be talking about the plan to burn up Northern California. And what do I mean by that? Well, Jeff, we have gotten a hold of information out of the Mendocino County Board of Supervisors. And I'm going to go over this because people will understand what is occurring here are likely similar tactics that are happening in other states as well.
How did you get the data, Deborah?
Well, I'm involved in a rural volunteer fire department advisory meeting right now here in Northern California, in that the fire departments are going to be squeezed out and consolidated in the rural areas, which here, of course, and everywhere else, because of the weaponized policies of climate change, are reducing emergency services in areas that are considered sprawl. And country and rural areas are considered sprawl. So with that in mind...
Why are they being reduced? It doesn't mean there's not a demand or a desire for them, does it?
Of course not. They're being reduced for a myriad of reasons. And it's really quite sinister, because what we're seeing is collectively the fire departments across the state having all of the same problems. Now, this was all planned. Generally, the fire chief's concerns, and we're talking about many fire zones, lack of funds, increasing laws and regulations that are being imposed upon them, diminishing younger firefighters. In other words, they're not getting the younger volunteer forces that they had been in the past, and costs for emergency calls are not being covered, as well as emergency aid outside taxing districts. And so they have these task force workshops that are being held across the country now for fire departments, with the illusion that they're going to help them be more efficient, run more effectively, and look at their equipment. Now, what is really behind the scenes here are several things. First of all, here in Sonoma County, our fire departments are largely funded and only funded by property taxes, and of course pancake breakfast. we heard in these meetings, Jeff.
These are county property taxes.
Yeah, well, these are property taxes in general that go, a certain amount go to the fire department.
Right.
But they are also funding themselves to fill fuel to operate their equipment by having pancake breakfast and so forth. And they make some decent money on pancake breakfast, but it's pretty ironic that emergency services should have to have all of these kinds of pancake breakfast and this kind of thing in order to fill their engines with gas. Having said that,
Well, we have to spend our money on more worthy things like free top-flight medical care for illegal aliens and housing and education and things like that. Those are far more important uses of our money.
Well, another aspect that the fire departments are all facing is that as a go-to destination for people all over the world because of the wine country and being nearby San Francisco. So with all the visitors that are coming and visiting the Rothschild predominantly owned area that we are in, Sonoma County, there are many accidents, and they have to be addressed. Well, what has been occurring is that the county and cities have been taking over large swaths of private property, putting them into open space and preserves, and also into parks where they fall out of the property tax base. So the fire departments are having to serve different types of calls in areas where there is no tax being collected. So the funds have diminished greatly. The fire departments are working on a shoestring, doing an amazing job with what they're doing. But the plans that are involved here in these meetings, an illusion that the fire departments are going to be considered having more value, is based on this. And this was said at one of the fire meetings, and I would certainly, suggest everyone understand this.
Who said it?
I looked it up on the internet.
Uh-huh.
One of the main fire chiefs that was put in position and has only been in the county for a year, that has rotated to other counties here in Northern California, said that I asked, what is the end goal of a year and a half worth of monthly meetings? When we know that it's all the Delphi technique, we know that the agenda has already been cast. What they're going to do with the fire departments has already been laid out, and this is what we were told. We needed to look up incremental regional consolidation.
Incremental regional consolidation. Did he look at you like you were crazy when you said that to him?
He said that.
Or did he get it? Oh, he was already in the loop. Good.
He's in there to cleverly deceive the fire chiefs in the area.
Gotcha.
Because what they know is that in order to maintain services in the rural areas, again, unsustainable areas that are considered sprawl, is a massive increase in property taxes for those that are still paying property taxes. So that is where we heard about what I'm going to tell the listeners right now, Jeff. Again, I prefaced it as the plan to burn up Northern California.
Sure.
And that's exactly what it is. And everybody needs to pay close attention, and you need to research this in your area as well. Because we have documentation. We have documentation of the perpetrators as well, and that the Board of Supervisors in this area rejected the resolution that was proposed because of big bucks that were behind this plot. So I'm going to fill in what I just said so that everyone understands. This is in Mendocino County, Humboldt County, and the northern part of Sonoma County here in Northern California. After request from concerned citizens and fire agencies, fire danger presented by the dead standing timber in forest lands and the request of commercial timber companies to voluntarily cease the practice of leaving dead trees standing. So what has been happening? There has been a private timber company that is the Fisher family out of San Francisco, the Gap family. They have had control of 438,000 acres of forestry. Their company is called Mendocino and Humboldt Redwood Companies. What they have been doing is slashing and gashing the trunks on the tan oak trees and other brush and squirting herbicides into these gashes.
Oh, wait a sec. Hold on. Now, who's doing this? This is disgusting. Who's doing
it's
this?
Unregulated, and it is a timber company that has the illusion. They tell everybody environmentally, leaving the dead standing trees is better for the forest. So I'm going to just continue with this because it's hard to believe the sense that this is unregulated.
Mm-hmm.
So what has again been happening is the fire departments have been opposing the squirting and gashing of poison to kill the trees and then leaving the trees to die. And also the toxic herbicides degrade into the soil. And of course, these plans don't make any sense at all. So when you see something like this on the county board of supervisors' agenda, we're generally compelled to look into it further.
I would hope.
We have.
Yeah.
So the purpose of gashing, slashing, and killing millions and millions of tan oaks and other shrubs is to eliminate the canopy of these oaks to provide further growth for the valuable conifers, the redwoods and the Douglas fir.
So, okay, hold on. If you go through Northern California, you will look into the end of foothills adjacent to whatever road you're on, and you'll see a mixture, usually of conifers and oak trees, and there are 1,000 different kinds of oak trees. Now, you're talking about that kind of a forest which is not heavily laden with conifers, but is more of a mixture, and they're going in there, and they're cutting, slashing, and poisoning and killing the oak tree portion of that forest, creating catastrophic dead tree fuel in a forest, which will burn the whole thing up in a hot minute.
That's
Is
right.
that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And what has happened is that the fire chiefs up in those areas and CAL FIRE are trying to get the county to take action and to stop this practice. And I'm going to go over some of the resolutions that were presented that were denied by the... It
bothers me because I look at hillsides like this often. Whose idea was this, and why are they doing it again? Is that your big punchline here down the road? I don't want to spoil it, but I don't get it. Why kill trees in a mixed species forest? It makes no sense to me. I don't get it.
Well, again, they state the purpose is to eliminate the canopies that the oak trees infringe upon the ability for the conifers to get the sunlight necessary for growth. So in order for the more valuable logging of conifers and fir, they're eliminating the tan oaks and other shrubbery. And they have used thousands of gallons of herbicides to kill these trees. And the fire chief up there said that there is an average of about 1 million trees that are killed on an annual basis since 2012.
This is done by hand?
I'm not certain of the process. I would imagine to gash and squirt,
they'd have to.
And squirt. It would have to be done by hand.
They don't have drones to do that yet. I mean, they must have crews out there that just work enormous areas.
Well, this is again a private timber and logging company that's owned by the Fisher family, the Gap family, and they are prevailing over the concerns of the residents and the fire chiefs and CAL FIRE up in this northern area of California. And so what we see, and we have been told, that the fire chiefs are anticipating this year to be one of the worst fire seasons they've ever had to potentially face. They say because of the reduction of ground moisture, the reduction of fuel moisture, and dependent on the ambient humidity, they're going to be fighting massive fires. And, of course, with these toxins and herbicides that they're using, which do include Roundup, by the way, these firefighters are breathing all of these poisons. So for all of the listeners, you need to look in your areas. Look at the privately owned timber companies do some research as to who these companies are, because we discovered that the Fisher family has affiliation with giving big, big bucks to climate policies. And, of course, we know that these are the climate policies are weaponized policies of mass destruction because it's all based on falsified science. So any grants that are coming out of this, the family donations, which they donate hundreds of thousands of dollars on an annual basis to climate change programs, and they have a organization called the Pisces organization. This family is Luciferian, and they're going against what the fire chiefs in that area are requesting and what the neighbors are requesting. And this is diabolical. And here is one of the letters that was going back and forth from the county, and this is just a portion of one of these letters. They talk about the unmanaged tan oak can pose a challenge to forests whose wish to rebalance the forest towards redwood production due to bottom-line cost analysis. A method known as hack and squirt is locally employed to kill off the unwanted species by hacking into the tree trunk and injecting poison. The herbicide use is outside the scope of fire concern, but I've come to understand that the practice involves leaving the dead trees standing. Attached is an aerial photograph showing us just how many dead trees are now standing. I have raised concern to the Mendocino County Board of Supervisors and CAL FIRE about the predominantly dead forest impacting fire risk. But oddly, most responses have been of the form, your area is already a high fire risk, and dead trees burn the same as live trees, end quote. The fire chief says, in my experience, dead, seasoned wood burns more efficiently than green wood. And intentionally dead forest in decay is a fabrication of fuel ladders, a pattern of vegetation that allows a fire to climb up from the forest floor into the tree canopy, where it is more challenging to suppress. Now, they went on to talk about how they focused on trees killed using the hack and squirt. The County Board of Supervisors had a resolution to consider at this meeting. And the resolution in and of itself speaks largely, because this resolution says as follows. Whereas the 2005 CAL FIRE Community Wildfire Prevention Plan, the last such plan written, this is in 2005, designated much of the county as a risk for wildfires. And whereas Mendocino County has approximately 1 million acres of commercial forest land, and whereas such standing dead hardwoods present a fire danger, threatening the health and safety of the county residents, and whereas there is current regulation of practices of leaving intentionally killed hardwoods standing, nor are there any requirements that such trees be downed and or removed to reduce fire danger. And whereas the forest management practice continues despite the protests of many residents who would be most immediately affected by any resulting wildfire. Whereas the Board of Supervisors is extremely concerned about the fire hazards presented by dead standing trees. Then they said, now therefore be it resolved that the County Board of Supervisors requests that the commercial timber companies on a voluntary basis immediately cease the practice of leaving intentionally killed trees standing on their property pending the completion of an independent fire danger analysis for a period not to exceed 6 months from this date. This resolution was not approved, Jeff. They
Can't
denied
imagine why
it.
not.
It's standing as it is, dead trees, and they're of course killing the trees every single day. And the fire department.
It's hard to
Yes.
believe. I didn't know anything about this.
Well, this is why it's important to bring this information to the forefront, because we have large conglomerates under the guise of environmentalism
Sure.
that is and are threatening the livability of people in the rural areas. This is definitely a way in which to reduce the population in the rural areas.
Question. There's so much, they're making such an abundance of fuel for potential future fires that nobody will have a chance. This is an enormous issue. Those trees should be taken out of there. The hardwood should be used. I don't know if it can be now that it's poisoned and toxic, but there's a demand for oak. I don't get it. And if you do kill off the oaks, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that the conifers are going to be able to get up through them.
Well, that's true, but I have something even more interesting on behalf of the owner of the logging company or the timber company when we get to the other side of this break.
Very
I
good.
think you'll be stunned at this.
Well, I'm already sickened. Okay, back in just a minute. Hold on. Okay, welcome back. Having a massive die-off, a kill-off, a slaughter-off of oaks in Northern California, where the forests aren't so solidly full of conifers. You'll find always a mixture of evergreens and the deciduous trees like the oaks, and they're killing them. This is a huge story. I don't understand. And then they're leaving the dead trees there as fuel for fires, which is what they don't want to do. So
it's exactly what they do want to do, Jeff. That is.
Well, I understand. I got it. But, I mean, that's theoretically what you don't want to do, but that's what they're doing.
Well, that's exactly right. And people need to understand when they see agenda items again on County Board of Supervisors agendas, you need to look into this. Again, the Fisher family is out of San Francisco. They're the Gap family, and they have a foundation called Pisces, Pisces, and they donate large sums of money, and they give grants to climate and energy funding mechanisms. This is a very evil group of people that are in control now of 438,000 acres of trees in Northern California. Now, here is what was said, and this is just outrageous. This is what the applicant, the Mendocino Redwood Company, had offered. And this is the fire chief, trying to be nice. He said, I cannot fault the applicant. Best I can tell, they operate in compliance with applicable law and work in an environment of ever-increasing and arguably onerous regulatory creep. In response to the questions I have raised, they've even stepped forward to brainstorm evacuation routes, adding credence to public concern in a desperate need. I'm also not ready to place culpability in the hands of the state regulators. It appears they are diligently following process. Unfortunately, the process as implemented seems to omit consideration for public safety, perhaps because forest management methods have outpaced legislative action. So what we have here is complete disregard for anyone who lives in the rural land, and this is an intentional depopulation of the area along the northern coast of California. Intentional. So I also want to talk about the reaction of those that attended the meeting. It was outrageous because the meeting was scheduled at the county in Mendocino between 1:30 and 3. But here's a comment that one of the attendees wrote. The worst part of it all was making everyone wait for such a very long time before finally allowing the public to comment on the dead tree issue. The schedule for the whole event was 1:30 to 3. but public comment didn't end up beginning until after 4. Many people ended up leaving before they could speak or even hear what others had to say on the subject. Instead of making an attempt to adjust or accommodate the big turnout of motivated citizens, or even offer a simple acknowledgement of the inconvenience to all who came and patiently waited, the board supervisors acted as though they really didn't want to hear from the public, and they purposely stretched and delayed out as long as possible, hoping to wear the people down and out. It became obvious that the masses and their voices were not very welcome in the chamber, and the meeting did not end until 7 p.m. when they killed the resolution. So here you had a meeting anticipated to calendar between 1:30 and 3, not ending until 7 p.m. Now, this is what I talk about frequently. The county boards of supervisors, the cities are all incorporated. They create the illusion with the Delphi technique as presented by the RAND Corporation that people have their say. That's why people are only given 3 minutes, and their voices
Folks,
are not heard.
wherever you are all across the country, you're probably running into the same offensive weapons to shut you down.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to throw this in right now because I mentioned the RAND Corporation, and this is something that I'm just investigating that I just discovered. And it's from the RAND Corporation's website. It's entitled Psychological Operations by Another Name is Sweeter. The Department of Defense has decided to change the name of military psychological operations, PSYOP, and it is a good thing. Make assertions despite concerns about the name change raised by others in Small Wars Journal. That should be an interesting journal.
What's the new name?
The new name is, the acronym is MISO, M-I-S-O, and that means Military Information Support Operation.
All right, that's a PSYOP now.
Yes, it is. And the reason that they're doing this is the psychological operations are no more than messages and broadcasts aimed at changing the opinions and attitudes or behavior of foreign countries, officials, or troops. And they have come to have a sinister connotation in the minds of U.S. citizens and policymakers.
Well, I wonder why.
Yes. The very term PSYOP summons dark thoughts of mind control, lasers, dastardly propaganda, or deception. Well, the RAND Corporation, again, has created the Delphi, or part of the extension from the Tavistock Institute, by bringing forth the Delphi technique, again, the method in which people are given the illusion that meetings are for them. They're not. And the RAND Corporation was also involved in the report from Iron Mountain. And I would recommend everyone watch the YouTube that we have up entitled Water Wars, Stealing Water for Profit and Power, and understand that a large portion of the report from Iron Mountain was to determine the optimum levels of destruction of life, property, and natural resources on the possibility and desirability of peace. Now, this is where doublespeak and wordspeak comes in. This is where what they just said, murder, the optimum levels of murder, destruction of life, and the destruction of property and natural resources, and then they end all of that by the desirability of peace. We are being tricked by weaponization of language as well. And I have another story that I would like to disclose in the remaining time I have left. It's a huge story as well.
Okay.
And I'll talk about that when we get to the other side of this break.
We shall do it. Stand by. More bad news. I keep hearing these things, and have for the last several years, with Agenda 21 coming and poking its head around the corner first, and all these things following, and they get crazier and crazier. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Yes. Again, this is May Day, and this is a May Day alert to listen to the stories that are emerging that we're finding, and they're going to be emerging in your town and in your state and all over the world. We're in a warfare of attrition. It's a scientific warfare. And what that means is attrition warfare seeks victory through the accumulative destruction of the enemy's material assets by superior technologies. And it is the continuous, sustained attack and pressure. Another aspect of this warfare involves what smart cities represent. Smart cities are the corralling of the people into prison zones, because keeping in mind, smart cities are based upon the idea that we must reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That is fraudulent science. And yet policies are being written in all of our corrupt administrative levels, and all the people that we assume represent us whom do not, are putting forth policies of corrupt, falsified science and creating new global markets and corralling all of us at the same time. Now, why I'm bringing up smart cities is going to follow into this story, Jeff, because attrition warfare is a clever exploitation of the mobility of the enemy to strengthen and to reduce the enemy's strength and make their strength irrelevant. And what they mean by that is finding an enemy means locating the enemy in both time and space. Fixing the enemy is reducing his freedom of action, usually by immobilizing or suppressing their abilities. So this is what smart cities are. They're suppressing our abilities. They want us out of cars. They want us onto bikes, where we'll be highly positioned to face all of the psychotronic weapons and all of the other weaponized systems of economy, etc., in these cities. So while I just spoke about smart cities, I certainly want everyone to hear this story. It is unbelievably horrific. There is a new city being proposed on nearly 8,000 acres of land in the San Joaquin Valley area of Southern California, where they're shutting down farms and ranches in the illusion that there is scarce water resources, which, of course, if you've been listening to Jeff's program and my program 6 days a week at 6 p.m. on Rince's network, you know already that primary water is why we do not have a water shortage, and that water is renewable. And we ask you to go to primarywater.org and get this information out far and wide. But to this city is called, it's a smart city, and it's going to be a new smart city with new trains. And they're calling it the New Ruralism.
Weird name. That's the name of a water feature.
Well, it's actually after the controlling CEO of this. His name is Quay.
Really?
But yes, it is, and it's interesting because there's Pelosi connections. There's all kinds of connections with this soon-to-be new town. This town was put forth in about 2008, but because of the economy, it was waylaid.
What's the nearest town to it that's of any significance, so we get an idea?
What I want to say about this location is going to be stunning. First of all, it's important for everyone to realize we have been hearing about this $68 billion plus high-speed rail line in the Central Valley area of San Francisco. We're talking about Merced, San Jose, Merced, Fresno,
Sure.
Kings, Tulare, and Bakersfield on down to Los Angeles. Well, this train was approved, the cost, and they've started construction even though they don't have enough money at this time to build it out. But it will take people from Los Angeles to San Francisco in less than 3 hours with speeds of over 200 miles an hour. So what's extremely interesting is that this rail system goes past and nearby this Quay town, Q-U-A-Y town. So
projected population?
Well, the Quay town originally wanted to build 150,000 single-family homes, but in order to be more appealing to Kings County, They chopped it down to 25,000 homes with 75,000 people. Now, I'm not clear as to what they're planning to do, create modulars within these homes to house 3 people per home. That is unclear at this moment, but I found it very interesting. 25,000 homes with the forecast of 75,000 people, keeping in mind this train will now run through it. What is interesting is that the holdings company is called GROW, G-R-O-W, which means green, renewable, organic, and water. That is the holding company for this Quay Valley in the San Joaquin.
By the way, just for fun, excuse me, Quay means, I wonder if there's any irony here, a landing place, especially one of solid masonry or concrete, constructed along the edge of a body of water, like a wharf.
Well, I can only tell you that, again, the name in this instance, and there could be some irony, it could be a name that this
all right, anyway, it's a weird
name. But having
name.
said that, here we are with the new train and a new town. And this new town, while it sounds wonderful, is very daunting and very frightening. And I'll go over a few aspects of what we can expect in this new town. First of all, they're rezoning current grazing land for housing and commercial development. And some of the land has been growing almonds and pistachios.
Mm-hmm.
So they're taking it out of farm production. And, of course, they claim that it's going to be a state-of-the-art sewer and water treatment system, and they will produce treated water to meet and exceed acceptable water quality standards. And they go on to say ongoing maintenance of these facilities will be provided through the Quay Valley Community Services District. In other words, they claim in this new city that not one drop of water will not be reclaimed water. It will all be reused water. What we have discovered in the documents in the YouTube that we put out, Water Wars, Stealing Water for Profit and Power, that the mega banksters will increase their revenue enormously by the billions and billions of dollars globally by water treatment plants and desalinization, which is unnecessary. They're only treating the secondary water cycle, the toxic water, from the rain and snowmelt, when in fact we have primary water that comes up from the mantle of the earth and is created continuously. But I wanted to go into more of the features of this huge development. It's going to have retail stores. It's going to have schools for education, entertainment, relocation camp homes.
The San Joaquin Valley, where it's 110 for about 2 months of the year, right?
Well, that's correct. And plus all of the wind with blowing the dust. Many people are very sick there now because of the very toxic treatment with fertilizers in that area. But they're going to have 2,000 acres of retail and entertainment.
No, please.
And they're going to have a Serengeti African safari experience, complete with animals, provided by the San Diego Zoo and Global Wildlife Conservancy. They're also going to have a water. Listen to this. This is very remarkable. They're going to be building a 5-mile Hyperloop transportation system that will weave its way through the project. It'll be the first working Hyperloop in the world. The system is being built by Hyperloop. And it goes on to say that people will get into a large tube, a vacuum environment, that can transport passengers at hundreds of miles per hour. Now, they talk about how there will be an emphasis on reduced cars, that there will be an emphasis on walkability, and there will be the reused canals, the water will have boats so that people can also boat. They can get in little boats.
And they're going to all be boating in their own sewage.
Yes, and it's called the City of the Future. And they're driving it as being the 21st century go-to location. They said it will surpass any location in California. people will want to go and visit this. This is the new ruralism. It is encompassing sustainability, green building, green infrastructure principles, and it's a new master plan community that is embracing smart growth. Again,
well, the only thing they don't have is gambling.
Well, I'm certain that that will be part of what they will likely have.
Sooner or later, they'll figure a way.
Well, all I can say is that they're also creating it to be future-proof in that the infrastructure will provide a platform for future updates and help avoid obsolescence. And they're going to minimize the need for vehicle trips and miles traveled. They're going to have heavy, heavy fines on water users that exceed their water allotment. This is attrition warfare. This is an encampment for those that are going to move there. This is confining the enemy without cars, under the illusion that this is going to be fun and that this is going to be a world-class sustainable community. Again, over 75,000 permanent residents in 25,000 dwelling units. So, again, Quay, this is a new town, Quay, in the Central Valley, where the farmers and ranchers are losing their farms and ranches due to the illusion of scarce water resources. Jeff, I want to thank you for having me on the program.
Oh, you're welcome.
Everyone, you can go to my website, stopthecrime.net, where you will find hot radio show topics at the top of the site. I urge all of you to take a look at the articles that I've discussed on the program this evening.
Thank you, and thanks to you and Lou for doing amazing work. Every time I hear these things, I can't believe it. It's getting crazier.
Well,
and
that
more
it is.
evil and more wicked all the time.
Well, we need to know what the plans are so that people can do what they can
thanks to your work,
get this information out.
Getting an idea of it. Thank you, Deborah. Have a wonderful weekend. My best to Lou.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Okay, there's Deborah Tavares, and we will be back on Monday. It's going to be kind of a rough week. Hope you have a good weekend. Take care, and we will meet you, in the meantime, you know where, at rense.com. Take good care, and we'll talk soon.